I was doom scrolling late at night as one is prone to do, and I found basically a Reddit post that was about the weirdest effects of medications. And there was a comment that basically said, like, there has been an increase in overdoses at festivals because so many people are taking GLP-1 agonists that it basically is causing them to think that they need to take another dose because they're not feeling the effects and then they end up overdosing. Now, as a drug scientist, I was like, first, why haven't I heard about this? So I decided to go full Olivia Benson on this and went on a deep dive about basically both aspects of the question. So first, have there been an increase in festival overdose deaths? And second, is it because GLP-1 drugs have a tendency to decrease the effects of other medications in a way that can be dangerous? So let's start with question number one. First, has there been an increase in deaths related to overdoses at things like EDM festivals and raves? And this one is harder to answer than you would think. So first, we just typically see that the sensationalized topics are the ones that come up. So for example, there was a woman who died at the Ultra Festival and charges were brought against her plug. And so there's been a lot of news stories about that. So the problem is that we don't really track this. And this is something that we really need to be working on. Researchers like me need to actually go out and start looking at these questions because nobody is doing it. So this is a thing that I'm actually kind of planning right now. If my second book is not picked up by publishers by the time my sabbatical proposal starts, this is a thing that I'm actually going to be writing up for my entire semester off to just do research. I want to do research at these festivals to see about how these strategies are working or how we can make them better. So any of y'all who are in the kind of festival or rave game, let me know because I would love to get your insight and to be able to plan research with you on things that would help benefit your community. Anyways, we see the most highly publicized cases, but other than that, we are not really tracking much of anything. Now, because of the highly publicized case from the Electric Daisy Carnival, there was a scientific study that went back and looked at emergency room visits that were caused supposedly by festivals. So this study found that yearly there's about 400,000 annual visitors to this specific festival. And what they found was that there are about 40 cases over a 5-year period of time that seem to be related to drug overdose that occurred at this festival. Now, they did find that the people who went to the emergency room based on the festival, so the people who had a drug overdose that was linked to them being at the specific location, they were more likely to end up in the ICU. So potentially it was more severe. But what you see is that 40 cases over 5 years, that's about 8 cases per year of overdoses at a festival that holds hundreds of thousands of people. So that's actually not that bad. And this year, it doesn't seem like those rates are higher. And 2025, it didn't seem like it was higher either. So the whole idea that festival overdoses are spiking, according to the data that we have, is not actually valid. So first part of that claim, pretty much not validated by science. Now, what about the second part of the claim? So not just that there have been more overdose deaths, but those are specifically caused by this interaction of the weight loss medications, so the GLP-1 agonists, and any medications that people are on. And this one is a little bit harder to answer because, again, this has been becoming incredibly prevalent recently. So now we see that there are over 30 million prescriptions. So best guess right now is that about 1 in 8 people in the United States are on these types of drugs, which is a ridiculous level of people who are taking this. So the main thing that people worry about when it comes to this type of drug is that it delays gastric emptying. And in doing so, that might reduce absorption of things like drugs. And I don't want to make this seem as though this is not a completely valid worry. It is a thing that you should be worrying about. Drug-drug interactions are huge, huge problems when you're on multiple medications. And so with so many people taking this, we should worry about this. So the main study in 2024 actually looked at this with kind of a variety of different drugs. So they looked at different drugs that had different levels of solubility as well as permeability. So basically how long does it take to dissolve and how long does it take it to get into your bloodstream? And do these types of weight loss meds, do those actually change the likelihood of those things occurring? And it found that yeah, it does delay gastric emptying, but even with drugs with high solubility and high permeability or low solubility and low permeability, it did not actually change the clinical efficacy of the drug. So it didn't do things in such a way that it would actually change how well the drug was actually working. And it tried this for basically everything. It looked at acetaminophen, it looked at warfarin, it looked at birth control pills, it looked at a variety of different drugs doing a variety of different things and found that there was really nothing there. Now, because I am a highly neurotic person, I then looked at all of the citations that were on that article to see if there's been anything more recent. And what we see is that there have been a few case reports saying that lithium and GLP-1 agonists might not be the best combination. But the main worries seem to be drugs with very narrow therapeutic indices. So drugs that the dose that you take to kind of give you the effect that you want is very close to the dose that can kill you. Like that should be a thing that you worry about. And drugs that like you have to constantly measure the amounts and concentrations of, like you should probably worry about those too. But in terms of everyday drugs, it doesn't seem like there are lots of problems. So like it seems like this is yet another round of kind of like the moral panics out there. Like I first did my research about the bath salts Miami zombie attack and how that kind of got spun out of control, and it seems like this is a new version of that. Like all the citations that tell you to worry about them are just like recovery centers and random people who refer to themselves as like spirit psychiatrists. Yeah, like the sources, they're not that great. And the science suggests that it's maybe not that big of a deal. And since we see so many people on these types of medications right now, we should be seeing more of an effect if this is a real relevant problem. But as always, this is according to the research that we have right now, so who knows if it might be a thing in the future, so always be cautious.